This time, it was Jesus telling this story. He says he also told this parable to some people who trusted in themselves that they were righteous and viewed others with contempt. Remember our opposite of poor in spirit? Sees self as superior. Two men went up into the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. Now, even if you're not a student of the Bible, you probably know that Pharisee was normally equated or related to being self-righteous. And Jesus had a lot to say against them. At the same time, tax collector, that's a different animal altogether. A tax collector, a fellow Jew, is someone who was viewed by his other countrymen as a traitor, because they looked at him as having sold himself out to the Roman government, deputized to collect taxes, and whatever is the minimum tax, the tax that was rightfully to be collected, he would pile on his profit margin, how much he wanted. That's what the tax collectors were known for doing then. And so this guy was like, how do you say it they were being vomited by their own society. So here's the parable. It says, the Pharisee stood and was praying this to himself. God, I thank you. Oh, by the way, again, just like Nebuchadnezzar, having his quiet time, reflecting to himself. It says here the Pharisee was praying, but he wasn't praying to God. He was praying to whom? Himself. It says, God, I thank you that I am not like other people, swindlers, unjust, adulterers, even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I pay tithes of all that I get. But the tax collector, standing some distance away, was even unwilling to lift his eyes to heaven, but was beating his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, the sinner. Once upon a time, I was a Pharisee. I was so proud of my education and my religious upbringing. And I honestly felt I was spiritually superior to most people. But one day, God got a hold of me, and He brought me face to face with myself. And I learned from the precious truth of His Word that I was exactly this: a sinner, helpless to save himself, totally undeserving of forgiveness. But then I learned about Jesus. And I learned what it meant to be forgiven. And I learned what it meant when I would say, He indeed is the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. And so the parable ends saying, I tell you, this man went to his house justified rather than the other. For everyone who exalts himself will be humble, but he who humbles himself will be exalted. The word justified here means declared not guilty. And so we see from the example of the Pharisee and the tax collector what it doesn't mean to be poor in spirit, or what it means to be proud in spirit, and what it means to be, through the tax collector, poor in spirit. To realize how spiritually impoverished we are apart from God.